Hello, my name is Gavin Boyer, and this is my Spanish 2 class reflection video. To answer question number one, what does it mean to be a communicator, and how did I express that through this year in Spanish 2? I think it's good to start off with the definition of communicator. So to be a communicator in the IB, or to be a communicator in general, um, using works such as language, art, and different types of attributes will help shape the understanding of what is really the topic of what we're learning. So in this case, Spanish 2, right, we used different forms of media such as like creating videos, we create presentations, and yeah. Some of the ways in which I demonstrated being a communicator was through opportunities within my class to do different types of projects and media such as um, like presentations on Google Slides, different types of videos, and then also the one-on-one dialogue conversation we did with Mauricio. And then explaining more about the different types of projects. So in the first semester, we did one where we talked about we talked about different words for foods and like restaurants, and then learned all these words through VHL, and then also the different lessons that Mauricio taught us. From my own experience, I learned a lot of those types of words for food in Spanish 1, but I definitely didn't learn anything about like how to ask, like if you sat down at a table at a restaurant, be like, can I get a menu? Can I, what type of food would you want? What do you want to drink? And that type of stuff, which really, really helped me because then I can really kind of put the pieces together, which when I learned in Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. And then also get a refresher of stuff in Spanish 1, which is really, really helpful this year. And just like the amount of like level of which knowledge that we were taught was very, very um, interesting and really engaging. And I really enjoyed the lessons that we did this year. Me personally, it's been really, really useful being able to use the different types of medias and not just been like, okay, video for this, video for that, presentation for this, presentation for that. When it's really structured like the way that Mauricio has done it this year, where it's, videos and then presentation and then one-on-one conversation instead of just being like only videos or only this, which I kind of found with my previous Spanish 1 teacher, where it was very just like, video and presentation, that's it. But having it with these different types of medias where it helps prepare, you know, because when you're in somewhere like, let's say like Spain, for example, right? If you just know certain bits and words and pieces and don't know how to prepare, you're going to be naturally stuck. And so knowing and being exposed to these different types of conversations and just experiences of, like if I sit down in a restaurant and like I need to order like a food, like what do I say to a server, or or just how to interact with just random person community and just ask different types of things is so valuable. I've really appreciated that from this class. Keeping with the same subject of IB topics, next we have inquire. So the word inquire means to basically do a deeper dive on a certain subject or to really explore. Within this class, I was an inquirer by researching the different types of like countries and different types of places. I feel like in my Spanish 1 class, we mainly just focused on like Mexico and Spain, and that was about it really. But in this class, we really talked about the different types of countries in South America and, in Spain and everywhere. So that to me was really, really valuable. And I had the experience to really kind of understand and learn about different cultures. Talking next about being caring and open-minded, the IB, which labels that as, helping others and being respectful and responsible with your time and with your assignments, and really making sure that, if someone's having a hard time, to really take the initiative and to help them is really key. And I felt like with this Spanish class this year, I've really been engaged in like, if I really need help, then I have a classmate who I can talk to. And I feel like I haven't really found that with other classes really, where you don't feel as comfortable asking different class. I feel like in this class, I'm really comfortable to be like, hey, I really don't know this word, and then someone will be like, oh, okay, this word is da da da, and I'll be like, okay, sounds good, right? And the amount of resources that we have is really, really helpful, through which, we have VHL, we have the different types of links on Canvas, and we have, or we could just flat out ask Mauricio. And having the amount of TAs that we have had this year is really helpful, in that there's enough support for everyone who might need a little bit more time. Like for me, for example, I think that the level of kindness and care shown in that class is really substantial. And it's obviously really key to really letting a language class, work, really, is to really help each other and to make sure that no one's left behind. And because our class, it does move at a pretty fast pace, and it is not, it's not easy at all. However, there are ways in which we can help study, not just by focusing on oh, here's an assignment you have, but by talking with other people and having that experience. And that connects a lot with the other terms of, being an inquirer. And this class was really interesting too, in the fact that it really didn't ever feel like just like a Spanish 2 class, where it felt like almost like a world history class. Class really gave me a good global understanding with countries that do primarily speak Spanish, how people interact, and we really express that through the lessons that we get and that we're taught every single day. And so it's quite interesting. For studying Spanish, we primarily used VHL Central, and just because it has a wide variety and options of different types of learning. So there's like flashcards built in. Then there's obviously the assignments. Then there's also like the book. So kind of keying all of our studies and keying all of like what we were learning off of the book was really helpful, because then we had access to the book. And so that if we weren't there that day, or if we wanted to go back and review, then we definitely could. We had the option to. And then also be able to like see ahead. So being able to really further my understanding, and if I wanted to learn more, having access to the book and being able to read it over the summer is really, really valuable. But yeah. But for the future, unfortunately, I will not be taking Spanish 3 due to wanting to take some other classes. However, I will still continue to study Spanish. Myself, I have access to certain types of material, such as like Rosetta Stone. So, and then obviously like Duolingo and Babbel and that type of language on your phone. But yeah, I'd love to see where Spanish takes me, and I would love to learn more about it and learn more of it, and then become even more fluent. So, even though it is unfortunate that I will not be taking Spanish 3, I've really enjoyed learning. I think the most difficult thing I found for Spanish was just like kind of knowing where I kind of want to go with it, just because, with any language, there's so much you gotta unpack, and there's so much to uncover. But I would say that, for any new beginners who are going to enroll in Spanish 1 or Spanish 2 or in Spanish 3, or doing, IB Spanish, to really just make sure you motivate yourself and know what's going to come out of it when you do finish those classes, and do it for yourself, not just for the grade, but learning a language, because language is so powerful, because language helps us, uncover culture and just the aspects of which the way the world works. But I will say though that because we're not in Spanish all year because of the way that school works, that doing something like Rosetta Stone, like I have here, is really valuable, and it's a resource that you can use, whenever you want. Now, obviously, something like this does cost money, but I do think that it is worth it for someone who is trying to learn a language and is trying to keep that knowledge and trying to learn it in a different aspect and different type of media. Like going back to talking about the IB terms, that something like Rosetta Stone is really, really valuable. I would say that within Spanish, just one of my favorite phrases to say would be like adios amigos, just because I feel like when you say something like that, which means goodbye friend, it really shows like a deep level of like connection you have with someone. So if you meet someone for the first time, you say like adios amigos, you know what I mean? Like I think it really develops a type of connection that you really just don't see with any other words, Because if I just say goodbye, it's kind of separate on itself, and sometimes, the word goodbye can be kind of a negative type of expression to use. But when you pair the word amigos, having friends, it really adds that level of connection to the word. To really wrap up my Spanish journey as a whole, through going through Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, I'm very, uh, very happy that I chose to do Spanish. Spanish wasn't something that I originally was going to take, but because it was so heavily recommended to me through some of my teachers, I decided to take it, and I'm really glad I did. It's really helped me. I think it will really lead me into a path that will help prepare me in the future. Um, just because with that basic knowledge of Spanish, things like jobs and different types of places in society that it might help me. I can use that language. I would say to anyone who is considering furthering their Spanish journey after Spanish 1 or Spanish 2 just to do it. Personally, right, I would be taking Spanish 3 next year as a senior, but unfortunately due to the scheduling and classes I want to take, that would not be available to me. But yeah, I would say to anyone who's considering it, just do it. It's a very different class and a very different experience. I think that everyone in a K through 12 school should experience what it's like to take another language. Gracias por los divertidos recuerdos y el aprendizaje del profesor Marcusio. Todos le aclaramos de menos. Adiós.